Oh man, I'll praise to God for starters for even putting me in the path to do everything that I love to do. But life has been great. My team and me were strong that we'd win. So nobody really back home on my team is shot. We're certain that eventually I'd get them to submit to my will. But like you said, Donald's a great warrior, man. So it's a great victory to have.
It is a great victory. For the benefit of our audience and fans out there obviously have inquiring minds, just to give them a little background, you've been a professional competitor in mixed martial arts since 2003. You fought for Bellator, Strikeforce, Shark Fights, World Victory. The title that you hold is you're the AFC welterweight champion. All that's in the past, and the future is golden as you step into the greatest proving ground for fighters in the world, the UFC Octagon. So now, with this stage that you're at this point, and when you listen to the comments being made about you, I want to ask you about one in particular. Our chief, Dana White, who respects you tremendously, loved the way you fought the other night. I think it was the post-fight press conference, if I'm not mistaken, he said that what you did that night is that you pulled the trigger. And that if you always pull the trigger like that in your future fights, you definitely will be, or you will be a champion. I don't mean to put words in Dana's mouth. Now, when you hear about pulling the trigger and analyzing your past fights, because I mean, you're devastating. Your punches, everything. I just love watching your boxing ability in the world of MMA. Do you feel this to be true, Jorge? Have you felt that about yourself, that you need to, with all the talent, all the skills you have, is that true in your mind, that you need to pull that trigger, which just makes you become even more of a devastating warrior? Is that something you thought about and taking yourself to that next level in your own abilities?
After my last loss last year, I looked at my career in total, and there was another split decision. It's very weird because during the fight you're winning, your corners kind of like we're hinting towards that we're winning. That we're doing well. That I do need to keep pushing the pace, but that we're winning. So I just stepped back, and I got a couple amateurs I coach and stuff. So I stepped back and I tried to look at myself like I was one of the amateurs I'm coaching, and what would I tell this guy that would narrow the gap between those split decisions and victories? So I sat down with myself, with my team. I did it in all phases. I even sat down with judges in MMA, and I had them just watch the tape, and I picked their brain, and I see things that I could up my activity rating. I fight backwards going real well, and that's something the guys are not used to. Usually the two guys start fighting. Whoever starts pushing the other one back, usually that guy starts winning. So guys are used to when a guy's going backward or laterally to just take over. I can fight going backwards. I can fight going lateral. So I could cause a lot of problems that way. Judges don't like it. But you see those split decision knocks, I threw more, I landed more. It's just I wasn't staying in the center of the cage, So it's one of those like weird things. Like I could also fight that way, but the public and the judges want to see the guy just stand their ground like I did with Cowboy. Something that I've been working towards the last year, just to be able to not use so much movement, but just stay in place and make the guys back up,
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the great warriors of the past, and you being a man who is trained and fought in boxing, you understand that, or not you understand, but let me ask you a question. Pardon me, I didn't say that right. There are some great fighters in the past that were able to go backwards and punch, like Chuck Liddell, number one, in the UFC.
Yes. Yeah.
Chuck Liddell stepping back. He can knock you out going backwards. The greatest boxer of all time, in my opinion, is Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson had an incredible ability. If you ever watch videos of his fights, Jorge, he had an incredible ability to take people out going backwards, even with short punches, right? Why? Because he's putting his
right hand, yes.
Exactly, because he's going backwards, but then as soon as that punch is thrown, he still gets his full body weight into it, which, as you know, it's not about having muscular arms. Punches come from the backs and the legs. And when you're standing there and I watch as you're throwing in your form, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of one of your punches, Jorge. You hit hard, my friend. There's no question. No question.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that, man.
Now,
you've seen a lot of fights, so coming from you, it's a huge compliment, man. Especially, I know you've seen a shit ton of boxing, so you're striking well.
Oh, I know my striking, and I've taken enough shots to my own, ugly mug to understand what it's like to be get hit hard. And I'll say it again. I don't want to get hit by you, Jorge. That's out of pure respect, my friend. Where you're at right now and your future.
Driving to ATT right now.
Oh, you're at ATT. Great. If you see Dan
No,
Lambert,
I'm driving there. It takes about it's an hour drive, so I got like 40 minutes left.
You got an hour drive every time you train? Every day you go train, you got to drive an hour up and
Every
back?
time. I live in Miami now, and the gym is in Coconut Creek, which is an hour, no traffic from Miami. If there's traffic, it could be 2 hours, you know?
That's dedication, my friend. Definitely
Oh, yeah.
dedication. So now you step out of the octagon. The raves, everybody's just loving what's happening, and of course those of us that really admire and are fans of Donald Cerrone, it was sad to see him lose, but you can't. It's the octagon. Everybody's going to lose at a given time and still come out on top based on their performance. What do you see for your future? How do you want to see it pan out? Let's just say for 2017. What do you want to be your next step?
Fight the toughest guy out possible. That's why I challenged Dana White. I bet him 200K if he could find the guy that could beat me, because I'm confident in my abilities. I've always been, but I want to fight. I don't like to wait around. I don't want to sit in the sidelines. That's not the type of guy I've ever been. I got into the sport to compete, to fight. So I just want to fight the best guy out there. If I'm not the best guy, let me fight the best guy out there and prove it to the world, to the people in the UFC to make the decisions that I deserve to fight for the strap. That's always been my goal. Just fight the best. Since the first day I've gotten in the UFC, every interview I've ever said is, why am I not fighting a top-ranked opponent? I should only be fighting top-ranked guys. Taking a couple fights to finally get that fight, but I'm hoping that from here moving on, it's just ranked guy after ranked guy.
Hey, let me jump in here real quick, Bruce, because looking at that, Jorge, I want to talk about your lightweight run just for a brief moment, because the guys that you fought and the guys that you lost to were among the absolute best in the world. And I'm looking at your losses, and more often than not, at least one of the judges of the three-man judging table said that, nah, Masvidal won that fight. And I'm looking at these guys repeatedly, and I said this on my podcast last week, and I believe it to be true. I know you're not fighting at lightweight anymore, but I think you're one of the top 15 lightweights of all time. I mean, if you had just a couple of judges change their minds over the course of your career, we're talking about a guy, Bruce, that is one of the best 155-pounders in the world. And even with those losses, Jorge, I believe you're probably one of the best 15 fighters to ever compete at 155.
I couldn't say it any differently personally.
Means a lot. It means a lot to hear that, guys. I put most of my body at work at that weight, so I want to leave a legacy. It sucks I can't make that weight no more. As you get older, the water just becomes a huge issue to cut out. So it's tough to go back to 55.
But looking at some of those guys you fought at 55, Jorge, I think you ran into some guys that didn't want to stand and trade with you, and there are a lot of wrestlers at 55. There are good wrestlers at 70. Jake Ellenberger was one of them. You answered that test with flying colors. Do you feel that your takedown defense is more spot on at 70 than, say, 55?
It's different. I pretty much had the same techniques at both, but my energy at 70 is tremendous. I would get down to about 173 pounds, 172, and that's the lightest I could get with a very strict diet, and the rest was just straight water. So by the time I rehydrated and everything, you don't feel the same. I wouldn't feel the same as I did in the practice 2-3 weeks before. So I knew also the IV thing was kind of a blessing, because I wasn't sure if I was going to move up to weight, But once that happened, I was like, man, I got to move. And ever since then, my energy levels don't drop from practice to practice. Like, I used to have like a really good practice, and then, man, the next one wasn't as good because the food that I was eating wasn't enough to put everything I needed in my body. So now I feel great, man. I work out 2 to 3 times every day, all day, and I don't have no issues with my energy. No issues on the fight. I can scramble as much as I need to. But I think that's one thing is the confidence of having that gas. And I know if I get taken down, no matter what happens, I'm going to get back up to my feet.
What do you walk around at now in between fights, considering that you're now fighting at welterweight?
Right now, it's pretty much the same weight I walked around 55. It's between 185 and 188. Right now, I'm exactly 188 pounds.
Jorge, you mentioned that IV ban. The UFC has gone through a lot of changes in this post-USADA era. I remember after the Ellenberger fight, you screamed into the camera, pre-USADA, post-USADA, I'm always a beast, something along those lines. How much do you think your contemporaries have changed because of this oversight implemented from USADA? And do you feel that it's a better place to compete?
I'll tell you like this, if USADA leaves, like something was to happen that, I don't know what, for some reason they would leave, I would retire or definitely consider it, because it's a huge game changer. And I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the super soldiers that were showing up to the weigh-ins, to the guys that are showing up now to the fights, you know. These dudes are pro athletes, and they look like they just gave birth. You know, and I've gone over this in several interviews. These guys don't look like pro athletes, and they definitely don't look like the super soldiers that they were looking like pre-USADA. And it's something that bothers me because in a fight, in a real fight, you know, you're in the street and you get somebody crosses, you don't got time to inject testosterone in your ass. You just got to go, man. You know, we're getting prepared for combat, and these dudes are relying on something that was made in the laboratory. And I've always known this in my heart. You know, that's why my performances, I've only gotten better with the USADA. It's not like I was a phenom for a year and USADA came and then now I'm looking like a shadow of myself, you know? I'm 32 years old. I look young, but I'm not that young. I'm kicking ass at the highest level because my body's never had no steroids in it besides cortisone, and I've gotten permission for that.
Let me ask you this.
I've never think.
George, sorry to cut you off, Jorge, but I mean, you've been competing in the sport for a very long time. You're a pioneer, I think, in this modern era. I'm sure the opportunity to take shortcuts in life were presented to you. Why did you stay true to not putting substances in your body and just be who you are with your talents?
The first thing is just the chip in my shoulder. I come directly from the streets, you know, and where it's looked at as like weakness, you know, like, man, you need something to get you to that level. We don't even have that type of money to access those things. So my mentality was, man, I'm going to do it by the grace of God in my own head. I don't need nothing that was made in the laboratory. I could prove to the world that I'm better than all these guys, you know. And for the most part, I think I did. You know, every guy that I've faced that I thought was on something, I was usually able to get the better of them. But now that USADA is running this strict regime, that people are living in fear, those that were abusing the system, it's a game changer, man. I mean, I don't got to say it to you. Anybody with two eyes could tell you it's a game changer, USADA.
Well, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, I'm clapping my hands and congratulating you. Great attitude. You actually come on top with the USADA movement based on how you're explaining yourself. And it probably gives you more comfort in the future as you're training for these future fights with these rules in place, I would assume.
You know, when they just come to my house one or two times, I get kind of upset. Like, man, if they only come here once or twice, they only tested that other dude once or twice. I like when USADA's constantly showing up at my house, doing the testing, because I know that if somebody's cheating, you're living in fear. You're gambling with your career. Because if you get caught and you get 2 years, you're pretty much done. Now, I wish on the supplement thing, you know how guys take a supplement and they say, oh, it was due to a supplement 6 months? I wish that could be, like, without a doubt, without no questions, they could find a system to see if it was a supplement or not. Because I don't think if you took a supplement and you reported it to USADA, you should get 6 months, you know? If I say, hey, I'm taking this protein, and then for some reason that gets you popped, then that's kind of weird that you would have to sit out 6 months. So I wish there was a more definite test that they could say if a guy actually cheated or was taking supplements.
You know, let me ask you a question about USADA when they show up at your house. Something I've never asked any fighters we've had on the show. Obviously, they can show up any.
Yeah, they can.
Jorge?
Yeah, they can show up anytime. Yep.
They can show up anytime. So now, with the amount of tests that happen when they've shown up at your house, do they show up in the morning? Do they show up at night? Is it like no matter it's different all the time, so you just have no idea? How does that work?
They've showed up for this last fight, right after the Jay Gellenberger fight. They showed up about a week to my house, and then I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks after that, they showed up again to my house. And they'll just knock on a Sunday. Oh, and in Colorado, they hit me up too. They'll just show up to the house, knock on the door. It's the 3 times that it's been in Miami, it's been relatively early. Twice on a Sunday, I think once on a Thursday. The last 3 that I can remember. And then in Colorado, they just showed up like in the middle of the afternoon, like at 7 p.m., something like that.
Well, I thought God even took the day off on Sunday, but I guess USADA doesn't, huh, TJ?
No, I mean, they that's how you got to get these guys.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, you think that people are going to think about cheating when they're just showing up to your house Sunday? You know, they're really going to have to think about that needle going into the ass before they drop it, you know?
Well, I think your mantra now should be, just like Winston Churchill said in World War II or before, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Let's put it that way. So you're doing fine, Jorge. Jorge, let's take a little switch over here. Let's talk about another area of fighting called the Greenfield Battlefield of Champions, the wonderful world of poker, which you and I both enjoy very much. What is your game? What is your game? What do you Hold'em? Is that your game?
Yeah, Texas Hold'em.
And what kind of blinds do you like to play on the average? 2, 5, 5, 10.
If I'm in Florida, I usually won't play the 5-10 because there's too many pros there, you know. And I'm not like a world-class badass, and I know that. I think that's the only advantage I have going into poker is that I know I'm not the best guy at the table, but I know who the worst guy at the table is, and I could usually find myself in more pots with that guy than the better guy. That's usually when I come out on top. So I'll play 2-5 in Florida, and when I'm in Vegas, I'll gamble more. I'll play 5-10. There's a lot more tourists, a lot more fish, if you could say, to play with. You know, and there's still pros and stuff, but I can pick off the pros. I know who the solid guys are.
Very smart. Perfectly smart. And also, that 2-5 game can be a tremendous amount of action depending on the players that are there. And you can play a lot of action and not, God forbid, have a losing night that's going to, like, devastate you, you know, unless you're really going super crazy. So now when you're playing poker, do you see this as a form of satisfying competition aside from the money you make when you take all the players' chips and knock them off the table? I mean, personally, I feel like I knocked them out. I get a really good feeling out of that in a very peaceful, you know, friendly way.
Yeah. No, it's an awesome feeling, you know, because it's mind against mind. You know, I've some crazy bluffs. I've seen guys hit me with crazy bluffs that just like, wow, how did you do that to me? You know, and it's a mental chess game the whole way through. You know, I mean, you know, just as better than me. It's all about reading your opponent. You know, there's probability and math and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, what I base my decisions on is just reading the people. You know, seeing how strong or how weak they are.
Exactly, because you don't play the cards, you play the player. And just on what you just said gives me an idea of the level of poker player you are. We need to play together, Jorge, when we're in Vegas. Let's try and grab a 2-5 together. Let's have some fun at the table.
Yeah, man. I would love to pick your brain on the table.
Jorge, why don't you say it the way you really mean it? You would love to take my money. Come on, be real.
No, because I know a lot of poker buddies of mine that told me that you're the real deal. So I know already off the top of my head you're a red light. I see you at the table and I go, nah, not that guy. You know, I look, I could find. That's my talent is I could find the lesser ones. I can find the ones that are not so good. If I get lucky against a good guy, I'll take it and run. You know, I'm not trying to go having duels with the good guys. I have to have the premium when I go with a good guy.
I think one of the best in the business said you got to know when to fold them, and that's something that maybe Mr. Masvidal has on lock. He knows when to get involved and when not to get involved. Jorge, we talk a lot about your time in the boatyard, educating your fighting attitude and whatnot. I'm curious, growing up in Miami and stuff, and just being a kid out there and surviving on the streets a little bit. Did that inform your poker game as much as it informed your fighting game?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you learn to get a read on people. You know, people will roll up to you in the gas station here in Miami, super common, and selling you something. They've never seen you in their life, but they're selling you something that's amazing. You got to be able to tell, man, is this a box of bricks that they're selling, or is there really something here? So you learn to have those telltale signs. You know, I can tell when a guy's bullshitting before he opens his mouth. Not always at the poker table. A lot of times I guess wrong. Sometimes, my judgment's off, but it helps tremendously. For fighting, it's very keen. I know the day of weighing, when I look into the guy's soul, I know what type of fight we're going to have more or less. And I'm almost always right.
And with that attitude of the mental similarities of correlation of fighting and playing poker as an example, because poker play, I think, correlates to a lot of things in life. Fighting mentality correlates to a lot of things in life. But you got to know when to be, this is at the poker table now as well as in the ring and the octagon. You got to know when to be offensive and when to be defensive. I'm going to ask you one question, Jorge, about poker here. Can you fold aces and kings, and do you?
Can I fold aces to kings?
Can you fold, if you've got pocket aces, the hands develop, the flops hit the table, you're reading the player, you're reading the cards. Can you fold those pocket aces and can you fold those pocket kings when you have to?
Oh, man, you're going to think I'm a bad player because there's a couple things that I don't do. I won't fold queens and up usually. Pre-flop, never. On the flop, it's a very peculiar type of play that I can only fold to, and it depends also how much money you have. If I'm down to like $50, $100, no matter what, I'm going to throw it in there, hoping to catch a break. But if, obviously, depending on the money, if I have a good amount of money in front of me, it's different, I mean, I've folded kings on a queen 9-7 board, and that's because before the flop came, I was like, man, I'm 100% sure he has a queen. And when the queen hit, I thought for a second, oh, maybe he doesn't have the queen. And then the way he bet and everything, I was like, nah, I got to fold it. He has a queen. So I've folded kings. I've never folded aces. I don't know. I know it's tough to fold aces.
It's tough to fold. I've been in major tournaments where I've had to fold them, a couple times, and I got to be open to that. Tournament play and cash play is probably there's a 20 to 30% differential in the and the way you approach it and the way you play, because in a tournament we can't reload our chips like we can on a cash table. But your attitude's correct. I like your attitude. It's very hard to fold, but it is really, really important to know when to fold them. And that's reading the player. Just like it's very well important to know, in the fight when it's time to turn it on and when it's time to back off and regroup. With that all being said, Jorge, you have a great attitude towards life. You have a great attitude towards your career and your passion for the world of fighting and the world of mixed martial arts and the UFC. I wish you nothing but success, my friend. You've always been a gentleman every time I've been around you. I respect you. I'm a fan, and I'm going to get a lot of fun in the future, not just announcing you, which I love doing, but watching you do what you do best. And I wish you all the best, Jorge, and I mean that from my heart.
Thank you. And now we gotta play some poker. You gotta teach me the inside tricks,
I will play poker with you on one condition. I want you want to take my money. Come play with me at the table, but I want you to.
No, we're playing at the table for me to pick your brain. I want to see you how the hands unfold, how you break them down, how you bet on the river, things like that. I like looking at the patterns, studying the patterns a lot of like the high level dudes,
Let's do it. Can't wait. Drinks on me. But if you win my money, enjoy it. That's all I say, because I'll take yours.
That sounds like a poker player. There we go, man.
All right, Jorge. Listen, I'll see you around the UFC campus very, very soon. Go train safe, get ready for your next war in the octagon, and we wish you nothing but the best on This Time Radio, my friend.
Thank you, guys. God bless, man. I'll see you guys soon.
God bless you, too. Take care, Jorge.